Hey guys, how's it going? It's Molly. I'm here today to share my thoughts with you on the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. So this did release back, I think the end of October. I picked it up in the Sephora VIB sale, and I have had some time to play with it and figured I might as well create a video where I show you guys a couple of looks, some swatches, and my thoughts. So we're going to first jump into the two looks that I created, and then we'll come back and we'll do swatches and what's the word? Review. My God. Okay, let's get started. Okay, guys, welcome to look number one. I'm going to start with this shade here, Cherished. I think it's what it is. Yeah, Cherished. Just going to use that as a transition shade. It's really light. I don't know how it's going to show up on my face, but it's a starting point. All right, and then I'm going to go into this deeper mauve. Well, it's not really a deep mauve, but this mauve shade here, Serenity. I'm going to use this to deepen up the crease. The brush that I'm using for this is the Sigma E48. It's their pointed crease brush. I've mentioned this in a favorites video. It's perfect for getting right in there and giving you a really just perfect placement as far as like laying down shadow goes. So I do love it for that. I'm going to take a little bit of that shade just to kind of lift up the outer portion here, because if I were to use that Sigma brush and go deep down, then that's going to give my eyes kind of a droopy sort of appearance. So I typically stop right about here with the Sigma brush, and then I'll take my original crease brush and just kind of fluff that same shade out a little bit. And then I'll also take it and just kind of whatever's left on the brush, I'll go back in to my transition shade with that. Okay, so that's where we're at so far. We've got a good base laid down. Now I am going to take the shade Lovestone. This is that shade where before you swatch it, it looks like there's a bunch of little like pearls in it. It's actually a cream shade. Honestly, I don't know what the base is, but it's very like Vaseline-y. On its own, this is what you're left with. There's just a subtle sheen. But what I like to do with this shade is to use it as something to help give the other shimmers a little bit of oomph. So now that I have that laid down, I'm going to go into Cosmic Love right here. And I'm going to layer this on top of Lovestone. I typically always use my finger for this, for my lid shade, at least initially, and then I'll go back in with like a wet brush with the shade on it, but because I'm using Lovestone, I don't find that that's really necessary. Okay, and then I'm going to, on the outer portion of my lid, I'm going to use this deeper shade, Empowered, just to add a little bit of depth. This one, I'm going to tap off a little bit, because I don't want fallout. Okay, now that looks kind of crazy. I know, I am aware. I'm going to take just a clean Sigma E38 and buff out the edge of that shade a little bit. I'm going to dip into Mantra, this deeper shade here, and it is a matte. And I just want to use that to kind of help those edges blend out. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing other eye, and I will be back to show you guys the lower lash line. For the lower lash line, I'm going to first go in with Mantra, this deeper matte. I'm going to take it on an E54 medium sweeper brush by Sigma. It's just the other side of their dual-ended brush that comes in their palettes. And I'm going to keep this close to the lash line and kind of sweeping up. Then I'm going to take that mid-tone mauve, Serenity, And I'm taking this on the E54 side of my Sigma brush, and I'm using that to help buff out the deeper shade and to help soften it just a little bit. Okay guys, so this is the finished look for look number 1. I finished things up with a couple coats of mascara, and I added the Bombshell shade of the Huda Beauty matte liquid lipstick. Stay tuned for look number 2. All right guys, so I am back for look number 2. For this look, I want to use some of the more natural shades over here. Not that any of these are particularly unnatural, but some of these do have more like, are just more fun shades, I guess. And I used those in the first look, so this look, let's just keep it basic and show you guys kind of the variety that you can get with this palette. So, but to start things off, I am going to use Radiate, this matte shade here, as a transition shade. So used to doing my eyes first, that when I do them after I've done the rest of my face, I take a minute and kind of have to remember that I need to be careful, because when you do your eyes first, you can just be sloppy and then clean things up. No, Charlie. What the fuck is that? Our neighbors are having some, like, I don't know, I think maybe they're building a deck or something, and the construction crew just showed up, so my dogs are growling and huffing. It's like their little quiet bark. It's their pre-bark. So if you hear that, tough cookies. I apologize. Okay. My God, that shade is beautiful. In the pan, it looks almost gray, but it is not. It is a really, really nice mauve. Okay, now I'm gonna take the shade Gratitude right here, and I'm gonna take that, this is a Sigma pointed crease brush. And I'm gonna be taking this just directly into the crease to deepen things up just slightly. Kona. Hey, no, it's okay. Kona. Okay, so we've got a base of mattes laid down. I think I am going to take a deeper matte just on the outer V. And to do that, I'm going to take the shade Aura right here. It's kind of a burgundy matte shade. And for that, I'm using a Sigma E54. Sorry for the jump cuts, you guys. I'm a little bit rusty with filming. But I'm concentrating this just on the outer V and then flipping the brush around to the E38 side, which has no product, and then I'm helping to diffuse that dark shade. Okay, so there are the mattes laid down. Now I'm gonna move on to shimmers. I'm gonna take the shade Energized, this shade here. It's like a very, oh, I almost dropped the palette. It's a really pretty like taupe. And I'm gonna take this on the inner portion of my lid just with my finger, which is typically how I do things. And I like to blend up into the crease just a little bit. But I'm gonna take this actually on most of my mobile lid. This is a foiled metallic shade, and it is very, very pretty. If you like metallics, this is a really great palette for you, in my opinion. No. Okay, and then I'm gonna take the shade Abundance here on the outer portion of my lid and overlap those two shades to help give this a little bit more dimension while continuing with a shimmer effect. And then for the lower lash line, I'm just gonna use some of the mattes that I used up top. I'm going to initially go in with Aura, the deep matte that we used to define the outer V. My concealer has creased significantly. I feel like I'm hunching over. Then I like to flick it up just a little bit to help like lift the eyes slightly. Not that my eyes don't even like droop down, but if yours do, there's a little trick for you. Okay, and then I'm going to take Gratitude on the Sigma E38, sorry. And just buff all along the lower lash line with this. All right, we're gonna finish up with a couple coats of mascara and add a lip, and I'll be back to show you guys the finished look. All right, you guys, so this is the finished look for look number 2. I really do enjoy this look. I know that I say that after every look that I do. I really like it. I hope you do too. But it is what it is. Anyway, I did pair this with a lipstick. I used the number 7 lipstick in the shade Honey Bloom, I think. Yes, it's their Moisture Drench formula. Really love this, by the way. I've had it for a while. Anyway, if you are curious about my thoughts on the palette as a whole, then just stay tuned and we'll get into the review portion of the video. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and do some swatches. I'm gonna swatch the mattes first, and I might as well do some live swatches so that way you can see what they look like. Aura. All right, the first two, we've got Aura right here and Gratitude right there. Next up, we've got Precious, Cherished, and Happiness. And then we've got Mantra. Oops. Forgot what it was. Serenity and Radiate. Well, those two are really similar. Radiate is maybe a little bit more warm tones. So those are the mattes that you get in the palette. Pretty good range if you ask me. I like that we've got super light to pretty dark. I appreciate that. So now let's go ahead and do the shimmers. All right, this first shade is the shade Quartz. It's just a nice gold shade. Next, we've got Cosmic Love. This is the shade I used in look number 1. It's amazing. And then there's Empowered, this deeper shade. I think I used this in look number 1 also. Honestly, it's been like a week since I filmed that and I can't quite remember. So there's those. Next up is Joy. This is the shade Joy. Kind of subtle. I haven't used that one yet, to be honest. And then this shade is Energized. Oh my God, that's what I have on my eyes today. Look number 2. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. It doesn't look that good on my, I don't know. I love it. Okay. Next, this is Blissful. And then Abundance, Moon Magic, and Self-Love. Okay, so there are the shimmers swatched out, you guys. This is such a good palette. Okay, let me just, spoiler alert, I love it. Okay, I did want to go ahead and tell you guys that I haven't used all of the shades, but I've used most of them. The shades I have not used are Quartz, Joy, Self-Love, or Precious. Those 4. Everything else I have used. And I feel like there weren't any major discrepancies between the shades. And I feel like I can absolutely share my thoughts on the palette as a whole. Like I feel very confident in that. And I just remembered that I didn't swatch that cream shade. This is the shade Self-Love. So my hand is very, very shimmery. I wonder, is a finger swatch okay? It's like almost a Vaseline base. There it is right there. Super, super subtle. Truly, if you're wanting a lot of pigment out of that, like if you bought this palette thinking that that shade was going to be something spectacular, you might be a little bit disappointed, right? Like if that was the thing that pulled you in, you may not like it. But what this shade is, so it's kind of a base. It's almost like a Vaseline base. I have no idea what what the ingredients are. So I'm not saying it is Vaseline, but that's what it reminds me of. And then it's got these pigment spheres suspended within it. So as you use it, those spheres break apart and the pigment comes out. The way that I like to use this is I use it, and I mentioned this in look number 1, I use it as a base for my shadows, and it amplifies everything. I did not do that for look number 2. I wanted to show you guys how the shimmers perform on their own without that added oomph. But yeah, that is a nice little option to have so that you don't have to have a setting spray with you to wet your brush. You know, you can just pop that on and tap things on top and you're gonna get a really, really metallic look. I was very impressed with these mattes. I found the mattes to be incredibly blendable. They are nicely pigmented, so they're not extra pigmented, they're not lacking pigmentation, they're right where they should be. They blend out like a dream. I mean, there is no patchiness or muddling or skipping, nothing. No problems. I'm telling you, 0 problems have occurred. So super, super stoked about that. Like I said, I love that you've got a really light shade that actually does show up on my skin tone. And then it ranges to a relatively deep shade. So you can get a nice base for any of the shimmers, right? Like sometimes it sucks when you get a palette and the mattes are either like all too light for the deepest shimmer, and so then things just look weird, or the mattes right off the bat are just like too deep. There's no gradual, there's no gradation is what I'm trying to say. And I don't like that. I tend to not reach for palettes like that. I prefer palettes that have a nice range of mattes. So that is, all of those things are huge pluses. The shimmers are amazing. I think maybe we're dealing with a couple different formulas. The like Quartz and Joy, those shimmers that I haven't used yet, those seem to be more true shimmers. And then you have foiled metallics sprinkled in here as well. Shades like, well, Cosmic Love, this is a duochrome. It's like a foiled duochrome. Energize, the shade that I used in look number 2, I would consider this to be a foiled shade. Same with Abundance. Blissful is another duochrome. Moon Magic is a duochrome. Joy is a duochrome. Self-Love is a duochrome. Like, there's so many duochromes. So if you enjoy duochromes, here you go. What I love about these shimmers, like I said, so many of them are very impactful and very foiled, and I personally really love that. But I think you can also apply them very lightly so that you can get more of a wash of a shimmer, and that's nice as well. I don't experience any creasing with these shimmers. Some shimmers tend to be like just too wet of a formula and they crease really easily. These don't do that. The longevity is fantastic. This lasts all day on me. I don't have any issues. I do use an eyeshadow primer, and I just use the Milani eyeshadow primer is the one that I'm using right now. So I don't have any problems with it. Is it worth $67? Yeah, I think it is. I really do. I would not hesitate to spend full price for this, honestly. As far as comparisons go, I'm sure that there are like color story comparisons, but this formula I feel like is fairly unique, and for that reason, this seems to be a fairly standalone palette in my collection. I mean, I've got some other like mauve-y tones, but nothing like this. So this is a one of a kind sort of palette for me. I thoroughly enjoy it. And if you can pick it up on sale, go for it. Like maybe the spring sale. If you don't want to spend $67, totally understandable. That is a chunk of change. I just know for me personally, even though I did buy it on sale, like I would buy it full price as well. But if that is not you, the spring sale is coming up in a few months with Sephora, go for it. Also, I think like if you can buy from Huda's website directly, I don't know if she has like a 20% off your first purchase sort of situation. But if she does, there you go. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the palette. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, you should give me a thumbs up, subscribe before you go, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.